Welcome to the Oregon Statewide Assessment System Science State Test Training. This module is required for all district and school test coordinators as well as science test administrators. Before we begin, here is a helpful list for your reference of acronyms that you will find in these slides. The four topics we will be covering in this module include test details, scheduling, test administration, and additional resources. This section covers test details of the OSAS science tests in order for test administrators to know the different components of this test. The science test is aligned to the 2022 Oregon Science Standards. Within the science test, the items are presented either independently, which we call standalone, or a cluster. Both item types engage students in a phenomena-driven task. Cluster items include a stimulus on the left side of the screen and a task on the right side. The cluster stimulus provides background information about the phenomena and a task demand statement. The task is divided into multiple parts that incorporate the three dimensions of the standards into the student interaction. An example of a cluster item is located in the resources section of this presentation. Standalone items, on the other hand, are shorter items that include a brief phenomena-driven stimulus and fewer interactions. The OSAS science test is an adaptive test, which means the question difficulty adjusts as the student works through the test, providing an easier or more difficult items based on correct and incorrect student responses. Science test includes from 18 to 22 items. Each cluster on the test will be from a different DCI, disciplinary core idea. No more than 2 standalones on the test will be from the same DCI. No more than 1 cluster or standalone on the test will be from the same standard. All items will appear in random order regardless of the reporting category or type. 1 cluster or 4 standalones items will be placed randomly within each test. Within the science test, the student will interact with different items such as multiple choice, where there is a single correct response, multiple select, where there are multiple correct responses, selected response, drag and drop, matching items, table, and graphing interactions. Some items are technology enhanced or enabled to allow students to enter an equation or create a graph. Lastly, another interaction in the item unique to the science test are simulations. To learn more about simulations, please refer to the resources section of this presentation. Additionally, for more information about each item interaction type, please refer to the resources section of OSAS portal under item type tutorials. Students taking the OSAS science test whose first language is Spanish or who are in dual Spanish programs can take the test in Spanish presentation. They will be able to toggle between English and Spanish rather than seeing a stacked display. As a reminder, setting the presentation language to Spanish is an embedded designated support. 2 additional reminders for the OSAS science test. Spanish language text-to-speech is available as a designated support. This will require a Spanish language pack to be installed on the student's device. Dictation is also available as an embedded designated support for the science test. However, Dictation is only available in the digital notepad of the science test, as there are no constructed response items on this assessment. If using this accessibility in Spanish, it will require a Spanish language pack to be installed on the student's device. Please follow the administration guidelines set forth in the Oregon Accessibility Manual. Beginning in 24-25, students using text-to-speech or American Sign Language supports will now see the icons for these tools outside of the context menu within an item. This change makes it easier for students to find and use these supports. Test administrators should make sure to familiarize students with this new interface before testing begins. The context menu will still include universal tools and other features that may benefit all students. Planning for test scheduling ensures students have sufficient time and resources to complete the test. The OSA statewide test windows for the current academic year are listed on this slide. Each test opportunity is subject to a 20-day expiration period, which begins the moment the student first logs into the test. For more information on the test window, please see Appendix A of the Oregon Test Administration Manual. And for more information on pause rules and test expirations, please refer to Section 6.4. Students in grades 5, 8, and 11 take the OSA science test with the expectation that at least 95% of students participate. This requirement is the same as previous years. All students with EL status are eligible to participate in the OSA science test. The science test does not have an opt-out. Instead, parents or guardians and adult students may request an exception based on disability or religion at any time prior to the end of the test window. More information about requirements for statewide testing can be found in the Test Administration Manual, Section 5.3, Student Participation in State Testing. Students in grades 5, 8, and 11 will have one OSA science test opportunity in that academic year. ODE provides a challenging up option. Students enrolled in grades K through 9 may not challenge up to a higher grade assessment. However, students in grade 10 who have completed advanced coursework in science may challenge up. If a student enrolled in grade 10 meets the high school level achievement standard, the score will be banked and will be reported in the student grade 11 year. Finally, grade 12 students who did not get their grade 11 opportunity may also test. Test administrators should contact their district test coordinator regarding the challenge up process. District test coordinators who need assistance should contact their ESD partner. More information about testing time can be found in Section 5.1 of the Oregon Test Administration Manual. Special test conditions information can be found in Appendix B. Planning for test administration ensures equitable access for all students. During testing, students may only access materials explicitly identified in the detailed list of content area accessibility supports found in the Oregon Accessibility Manual. For example, students may not access materials such as class notes, electronic translation devices, or cell phones during testing. Before a test is paused, students should be allowed to finish responding to the items presented on the screen, if possible. If the student pauses the test for fewer than 20 minutes, they will be able to review or change any items they have already completed when they resume the test. If a student pauses for more than 20 minutes, They will not be able to return to the previously completed items when they log back into the test. It is important to note that if a student pauses the science test for more than 20 minutes while working in a cluster item they did not previously complete, they will be allowed to continue working through that item when they resume the test because it had not yet been completed. For more information on test administration, consult the sections of Oregon Test Administration Manual referenced at the bottom of the slide.
Scratch paper is a non-embedded universal tool that should be made available to all students throughout the duration of the test. Scratch paper may be retained between test sessions to allow students access to their notes for any task still in progress. If retained, scratch paper must be securely stored between test sessions. When retaining scratch papers, TAs should direct students to write their names or other appropriate identifying information on the paper, then collect and inventory the paper at the end of each test session. Retained scratch paper must be kept in a securely locked room or cabinet that can only be opened by authorized staff. Upon completion of the test, scratch paper must be securely destroyed. More information about secure handling of test materials can be found in Section 2.4 of Oregon Test Administration Manual. Oregon provides several support resources that can adequately prepare both teachers and students. The OSAS Science Sample Tests are available on the OSAS portal at osasportal.org. Sample tests provide examples of the types of test items students will see in each grade band of the OSAS Science Test and should be used to help students become more familiar with the format of the test. The sample tests also allow an opportunity for test administrators and students to try out accessibility supports before using them on the actual OSAS Science test. In addition to the sample tests, the OSAS portal also includes links to the calculators students will encounter in the science assessment. The calculators embedded in the OSAS science test are the same ones embedded in the OSAS math test in grade 6 and up. It is very important that students have time to practice with science item types. This slide shows an example of a cluster item. Before testing begins, point out the grouping of information on the left-hand side of the screen and the questions on the right-hand side of the screen. There can be a lot of information for students to process on a single screen. While they can be used to inform teaching and learning, sample tests should never be used to evaluate student academic performance. Some students will interact with items that contain simulations. Students should practice with these items in the sample test to familiarize themselves with some of the technical aspects of simulations and become more comfortable manipulating the simulations prior to sitting down to take the actual test. It is important to note that the simulations in the science test do not have audio or spoken words. For more information and examples of this type of interaction, please go to the resources section in the OSAS portal and search for item type tutorials. Desmos calculators are an embedded universal tool available on all items of the science test in grades 5, 8, and 11. In grade 5, a 4-function calculator is available, whereas in grades 8 and 11, a graphing calculator is available. More information about the specific functionality of these calculators can be found on the Desmos website at www.desmos.com/testing/Oregon. Note that the OSAS Science Test uses the same embedded calculators as those found in the OSAS Math Test. The OSAS Science Test website offers classroom scavenger activities for grades 5, 8, and 11, created for educators to use in their classroom. These scavenger activities aim to help students familiarize themselves with the various accessibility tools available while taking the test. For more information, please go to the OSA Science Test webpage under the OSA's Science Test Resources. Several resources exist to support teachers and students in understanding and preparing for the OSA Science Test. The Oregon Test Administration Manual, Oregon Accessibility Manual, and OSA's portal have been referenced on previous slides and are linked here. Links to the Science Test Blueprint Summary and item specifications are also provided here. These resources can help teachers better understand the OSA Science Test and inform their instruction to better prepare students for success.
This is an optional point in the required training to pause and discuss these or other questions, as well as to ask questions of your district or school test coordinator. We have reached the end of the OSA Science State Test Training module. Please reach out to your district or school test coordinator or the specialist on this slide with questions. Thank you for your attention and have a great school year.